Nice. We're live. Welcome to the Ejakeulate podcast. Today we're going to talk about the moon landings. What do you guys think about it?
Well, I think it's real. I think there is evidence to suggest it's not, which we'll go over, but I think it's real.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
I don't
it's
think it's real.
plausible, but it's most likely real.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm on the edge. I think it
You're
is.
on the.
Yeah, like it
Are
could
you a
go.
fence sitter?
Yeah,
You
it could
sitting
go
on the
both
fence?
ways.
Yeah.
The reasons against, the reasons for, I think are quite equally matched. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of things say that it could be real. A lot of things say that it could be fake.
And a big thing for conspiracy theories is the motive as to why they would do this.
Yeah.
And I think the motives are definitely there.
Yeah. I think
because obviously in the context of the Cold War, there's propaganda is super important because it's an ideological battle between capitalism and communism, and if capitalism can be seen to reach the moon first, that's an excellent propaganda victory.
exactly.
That will really hurt the Russians. So I think that's a very important factor.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that is probably one of the biggest reasons why it's like plausible that it's fake because it was Russia versus America, and it was to prove who was the strongest.
Yeah.
Really,
America would gain a lot from faking it.
Exactly, and
then
Russia had also
this
proven, haven't they, that they'd already sent stuff to space before America.
Yeah, exactly. So America needed to catch up.
Exactly.
But the problem with this theory, the problem I have with it, right, is if it was faked just for propaganda, surely, of all people, the Soviets would be the first people to call them out on it. But they didn't. They never claimed it was fake.
Yeah, but the thing is, though,
admitted.
is there's proof that the Soviets sent out multiple spaceships, which or whatever the rockets, that had failed and had obviously killed people. And if they had calling out, America on being fake, America could easily call out on, oh, look how many rockets you've sent out and you've killed this many people.
That's true, actually.
And the backlash of that.
I never thought about that, actually. To be fair.
Exactly. So it's like I feel like it was, and maybe Russia. Maybe in their eyes it wasn't as big as America maybe had seen.
I mean, they still got the first person in space and the first space, and they got the first man-made object on the moon. So
exactly. I mean, it's more of like it wasn't really seen as like a literal, it wasn't like a literal victory, like they're the most powerful. It was more of like it's more of like
symbolic.
It was more of like the theory that they had, well, not the theory, the idea that they had done it first. That was like the win.
Because they'll forever be the first people to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could see why. I mean, it would be real because they invested. I don't know how much money it was. It was a lot of money. It was something like 300 trillion.
It was billions of taxpayer money.
Yeah, okay, maybe not trillion.
That brings me into another theory that I've read before, is that the reason was so they could basically have an excuse for taking loads of taxpayer money, like increasing taxes, but then using it on other stuff. And it was a corruption thing, and they needed to explain where the money went. They needed to balance the books, so they made up the moon landing. But again, the problem I have with this theory is, like, surely it would cost a lot just to film it anyway, and to keep people involved, like, quiet.
Yeah, but 300 billion a lot? I doubt it, man.
Okay, that's a fair point.
You know what I mean? It's like, and also imagine if it was fake. Like, I could still imagine, like. So let's say, for example, like they were still covering it to this day. I could totally see why. Because imagine if you had just done, like, you had basically, well, not scammed, but you've just taken $300 billion off of your people for and you've lied about it. Like, you've basically, like, you'd come across as really bad. And, like, again, like, the I mean, they would have seen the Russians as a much better, like, people. Because they're not, like, covering, well, they did cover some stuff up, but you know what I mean? Like, you've just done one of the biggest scandals in history, basically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It would.
So
the biggest scandal in history.
And some people say, like, oh, if it was fake, surely by now they would have, like, owned up to it or some shit. But the problem is with that is that if they did own up to it, the backlash that would go, like, back.
Oh yeah, it would absolutely decimate.
Who was is it Nixon or something was president at the time?
Let me think. 69. So it would be. I know who was in charge of the Soviet Union at that time. I don't think it was Nixon.
No.
It might have been Lyndon B. Johnson. I'll
I
look it
don't
up.
know.
Hang on.
Don't think about that guy.
Thing is, even if they had faked it, then all the people that would be required to cover it up, I would have thought someone major would have said something by now.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
The sheer amount of people.
I mean, I've just searched up and apparently it was Lyndon B. Johnson and it says Richard
Ah.
Nixon at the same time. I think these are
right,
about.
yeah, it'll have transferred over.
Now, if I'm pretty sure, Nixon had a pretty big scandal as well, didn't he? Or was
Yeah,
that
but
not
to be
him?
fair, he was. I think, to be honest, and this is leaning into a different conspiracy theory entirely here. I think he was framed by the CIA, to be honest, with the Watergate scandal because he had nothing to do with it. It was literally just because he was president, and literally like he had nothing to do with it, and he was like, well, if people hear about this, even though I wasn't involved, people will be questioning me. It'll be a lot harder for me to do stuff. So it's just easier to cover it up. And then people found out he covered it up, and that's what caused it. But he wasn't even involved with it. And I think it was. I think he was framed. Yeah,
but surely the idea that you have a president which is, well, it could be seen as untrustworthy, and he was around during the time that they sent the, they went to the moon. You could see that maybe people would start to imagine that, the president wasn't to be trusted, and it could easily have, that could be another reason why, like, you could see it as fake, because the president at the time wasn't very trusted by the people. I mean, I would say there are a lot of reasons also why that is fake, and I think that one of the main reasons that people would argue that is fake is due to the Van Allen belt, which is.
Please explain.
It's basically like it's these belts of radiation that are around the Earth that are like stuck in the Earth's the magnetic field, and basically due to this, as you know, radiation was things like Chernobyl, like Hiroshima, and things like that. Like the radiation's proven that it's very lethal and can kill people and things like that. And just the idea that there's these massive, like, these things there's a lot of radiation in them, and if it's passed through them.
Are they gamma? Is it gamma radiation?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they are charged particles, so I'm pretty sure it's alpha and beta particles, things like that.
Well, they don't do much harm though.
Exactly. That's I mean, they do a lot of harm, but they don't. They're very, like, I can't explain, but they don't go through like solid objects very well.
Yeah.
Unlike gamma rays, things like that. They obviously
rays can travel through. Exactly. I think it's like 6 foot of concrete, but alpha and beta rays can't even go through a piece of paper.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So, I mean,
but
that is
if you're in a steel spaceship, it's not going to have an effect, is it?
But think about it. When are we taught about these beta and alpha particles and radiation? We talk about it like during school and all that, right?
Yeah.
And who decides what you learn about? The government.
Yeah, but this falls apart here because remember, NASA is just for America. It's national.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Space and aviation.
But think about it. Like the UK and America, they've always been side by side, haven't they?
That's true.
So
that's true.
There could be something there.
Could have been involved. It could be involved.
Exactly.
But the thing is, by now, someone would have called it out if that was the case. If they were lying to us in public education about something like alpha and beta particles, someone will have mentioned it by now. Yeah,
I agree, but I mean, it is a bit far fetched to say that it's all fake what we learn, but like I could see
it's a stretch.
Yeah, it's a stretch, but I could imagine sometimes the government I'm pretty sure there have been cases where people have been killed due to them finding stuff about the government, and they've not been publicized, but I'm pretty sure you could find information about strange things, and there's obviously conspiracies about them. Yeah, like them.
I think in 2017 or something, high up WikiLeaks guy committed suicide in inverted commas.
Yeah,
and everyone found that very hard to believe because he was he wasn't depressed or anything. He showed no signs that he would commit suicide, and one day he just turned up and he was hung. And it's I think the CIA might have done him in.
Exactly, because not much is publicly said about the CIA and things like that, is there? So there is a lot of
very secretive, very
exactly. So there could be there is a lot of conspiracy surrounding them.
Yeah.
I mean, I
don't
know. The Van Allen belt, it does seem if you look at it from how I've been taught about all this radiation, it does seem quite easy to go through, and also if you look at the flight paths of where they went for the majority of the time, like with the Van Allen belt, you can go like there's like in the center of it, it's more radiation than around the edges, and they in the flight path showing that they went like through the edge of it basically. So the people in it only received about 0.5% of the radiation that was like in the belt. If that makes sense.
Which is like nothing.
Yeah, which is very like
Also,
minimal.
I'd assume they would have planned that they were going through that, so the spaceship would probably have like lead
Yeah, exactly. And
inside because it can't pass through that very easily at all.
exactly, and I don't think they used lead. I'm pretty sure they just used. I'm not sure. They just used basic metal like aluminium and things like that, like steel. Because the alpha and beta particles, like they can't pass through them, and even with beta particles, they can't even penetrate skin very well. So even if it did make it in, it wouldn't have done much harm to the occupants of the spacecraft.
I think that wouldn't.
Yeah.
Really, what's it called? The something belt, the
Van Allen belt.
Van Allen belt.
Yeah. I mean.
Now another thing that really falls apart it was a hoax thing is there's a lot of comments on if it was fake and it was done in a studio, the filmography of it, and a director from the time, I want to say Stanley Kubrick, but I might be completely wrong there, but a famous director of the time, he came out and said, like, if it was fake, we want to know how they did it, because the filmography technology and techniques just didn't exist at the time to pull that off. Like, never mind, like, even if they somehow came up with the techniques, just like the technology that they'd need to fake that at the time to that level of accuracy just did not exist.
Yeah, I mean, I could agree with you, but at the same time, look at what technology they were using to even launch the spaceship. Like, the computers they were using were very, like, compared to computers nowadays, they were worse than a desktop that you could possibly.
Yeah, I mean, like, the first moon landing, the computing power required is 10% of an iPhone.
Exactly.
Like 10% of an iPhone could do the moon landing.
Yeah, the thing is, though,
that's how little compute. It was mostly like
possible?
human mathematics.
It's just insane that like they managed to launch this spaceship with computers which are what, like you said, like 10% of an iPhone. It seems like
It seems difficult, but like I said, there was at this point in time. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of a lot of mathematics involved, human based, which we don't see anymore. It's all computers now, so we don't even think of the fact that, like, people would actually be sitting down and like doing maths things. Second of all, the smartest people in the country are going to NASA. That's where you worked if you were the smartest person in the country. And third, this is only the 60s. There's still all them like all them Nazi rocket scientists from the Second World War that America like brought over and had work in NASA, and they're still there, and they're chilling out with their like knowledge. So I think the problem with that theory that they didn't have the computing power is because our modern conception of something like this is all computers like crunching the numbers and that, but it was heavily based on human mathematics as well, which is a decided factor, because the human brain is the most powerful computer there is. So
yeah, and also a lot of like theories, like, well, not theories, but like things like gravity, it wasn't made like the idea of gravity wasn't like made by a computer, if that makes sense. It was a person. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
So I could see why, humans could like just by pure like mathematics work this out, but
yeah, just on like a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even joking.
I bet it was a blackboard though, because it had chalk and shit.
Oh yeah, a blackboard with chalk.
Yeah. Some other things which are also quite sketchy about the moon landings is the photos of them. If you see, there's no stars in the pictures, which.
Yeah, but bear in mind how old the cameras are. Like, would they pick that up?
Yeah, but the thing is though, is that if you took let's say I walked outside at night time and there was no clouds. If I took a picture of the sky, you'd see the stars, right? And the Earth has a lot of. It's got quite the atmosphere compared to the moon is I mean, it's like miles apart.
Yeah,
Like,
but here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? The way cameras worked back then is they would literally shoot like a ray of light and then use that and to like flash photography.
mm,
It would shoot a ray of light and take that, and if you shoot light at a already existing light that's like millions of light
mm,
years away and isn't that powerful, it's going to get drowned out.
yeah.
You're not going to see it.
Yeah, but
So
at the same time, I feel like there would be traces of it though, because even in
no,
these pictures, you can't even see even a hint of that. There's some sort of light there, which I think is pretty.
but that's the thing. It's because of the way the cameras back then,
Yeah, I
because
mean,
of the way they functioned.
I mean, I'm not too sure what types of cameras they like use, but I
You
mean,
find any black and white photo of a night sky that isn't being like specially designed by like some artist or
Yeah.
whatever to take
But-
photos of stars, I can guarantee none of them will have stars in
yeah,
them.
but I'm pretty sure the photos they used for the moon land actually were color.
No,
I'm
no,
pretty
they
sure
were black
some
and
were.
white and
Were they-
colorized them.
Were they? Oh, okay. That
They
does make
colorized
sense.
them.
But I mean, I still think that it's still crazy that like you can take a picture from the moon where there's hardly any atmosphere, and at all times like stars are visible, and you can't even see like a hint of them. And even so,
Well,
like surely there would be reflections on their masks of like stars.
Well, you wouldn't. Again, the reflections would be very like you can't even see a reflection of the actual moon on them. You just
Yeah.
see like the light because the cameras were such low quality they worked. It's all it makes sense that people would be suspicious of it,
Yeah.
but it's very easily explained.
Yeah, and also I'm pretty sure like people have said that like because of how like little atmosphere there is and how bright like stars are, that let's say you could see them, it would make the picture very blurry and you wouldn't be able to see very well. Just the sheer reason
Yeah.
that like there's no atmosphere and it's taking a lot of light. So apparently they'll turn down the exposure so that you couldn't see them. But
Yeah,
I'd still think
precisely.
if you turn down the exposure, you would still like. I still there'd be a hint of there being stars.
But Nvidia simulated that, and they showed an exposure with the photo where the stars would be visible, but then they pointed it back at the surface of the moon, and the whole photo was just a white glow.
Yeah.
If it was at the right exposure.
That would make sense, to be honest. I mean, that would make sense. Like, let's say, like, for example, if you had like a light shining at like a reflective object, it would make everything around it seem a lot darker. I mean, I don't know if the moon's necessarily reflective, but you get what I mean. It's like
The moon is reflective. That's why it glows in the night sky.
there you
'cause
go.
It's reflecting the sun.
exactly. But, I mean, you can totally see why some of these theories are now like quite like plausible, and why someone could
Yeah.
like think that the moon landing is fake.
Well, yeah. Again, it's because we're living in
Yeah.
people aren't taking into account the technology and techniques
Yeah.
of the day, and people are looking at it with modern conceptions.
Mm.
That's why they're only bringing to light now. Like it was very, 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 very fringe. The idea that the moon landing was fake, that was so fringe back at the time, and over time it has grown, right? Which it doesn't seem to make sense, but it does because as technology improves and techniques improve and people get new conceptions of the way things work, looking back with modern conceptions, it looks fake.
And very, yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean, some pictures are pretty unexplainable. Like there's some pictures where shadows are like perpendicular to each other, which really doesn't make sense to me. Like I posted a picture here, as you see, like one of the shadows coming like towards us, where the other one's going like to the it's going perpendicular to it almost. And I mean, if I was thinking about that, why would that happen? The only possible reason I could think is that there's multiple light sources, and when you're on the moon, the only big light source available is the sun. So how could there possibly?
About the second to last photo?
Yeah. So how could there possibly be multiple light sources?
Right, it's an optical illusion. It's because of where the sun is. Like, obviously, you can't actually see the sun in that photo.
I mean, you've got a
Where
rough
the
idea of
sun
where it's
is.
coming, as you can see, like the flare on the camera.
And it's literally an optical illusion. They're not going the same direction per se.
Yeah.
But if you imagine it's difficult for me to describe. I know what I'm thinking though. Like if you were to stand in
Yeah, I get
in
what
the
you mean.
middle of the two shadows and look out, the sun would be directly center.
Yeah, and
So because
also,
the sun's center, it looks like they're going different ways, but
yeah,
it's actually just because of the way light works.
it also could be to do with like the like you said, it could be an optical illusion due to like the moon's surface is not flat,
Yeah, that
and
as well.
where
That's also a
and like
massive
the
thing.
angle of where the sunlight's coming from, it's coming from the top left, and like if you got like a like like a like FOV, for example, like different perspective, it like warps a little bit, like on the sides. Like maybe it's not happening in this case, but where the sunlight's coming from, and obviously because the moon's not flat, maybe it's just an illusion because of like the angle that maybe the shadow was sitting just behind a slight like a ridge or something, and it's
Yeah,
covering part of the
precisely.
shadow. It could be blocking off.
Precisely.
I mean,
Like there's so many explanations to that theory of the whole there's multiple lights.
yeah,
And furthermore, if they did fake it in a studio, you'd think they'd be a bit smarter than using multiple lights.
yeah, but yeah, I would agree, but I don't know. It's sometimes there are like stupid mistakes like this though. Like in films, you still see films where like so obviously like
Yeah, because they're works of fiction and they can get away
yeah
with
I get that, but I mean mistakes as in like in one scene they'll be wearing like glasses, in the next scene the glasses just magically disappear. You get things like that. Like they could
Again,
be
but
simple
like
mistakes.
if this is a
Human error.
secret cover up of the greatest scandal in like
Yeah.
modern history, you'd think they'd pay a little bit more attention to what they could get wrong.
Yeah, but if I looked at that picture without taking in the shadows, I probably wouldn't notice that, if you know.
Yeah,
Like they probably didn't even notice it.
but people notice things. That's
Yeah.
why there's a conspiracy theory in the first place.
Exactly.
It's a weird. I get understand where people are like why
Yeah.
people think that, but it's easily explained away.
Yeah. There's also another picture I posted. It's like one of the first ones I posted. It's a rock with a C on it, and people were saying that why would there be a naturally formed letter on a rock? And it's quite obviously a
The face
C.
of Mars, isn't it? It's the face of do you know the face of Mars?
Yeah.
When people thought there was a massive face on Mars and they checked it out and it was pure coincidence.
Yeah.
Same with that, isn't it?
People were saying that C on the rock it shows that like it's a pretty clear C. It could just be like people saying that obviously if you mess with like the brightness and things like that and like invert the colors, you can like see things like this just by pure coincidence. But to me it's pretty clearly a C, and
Right.
maybe
So
it could have been on a prop.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. First of all, it's again like it could have been caused by like if another rock hit it and like chipped away at it or something.
Yeah, but the thing is though,
it could have been caused by the actual camera. The actual camera
Yeah.
lens might have had like a dust particle on it or something, and it
Yeah.
happened to look like that. And third of all, if it was a prop, why would they take a direct photo of it?
No. This is just part of like a photo. This isn't direct. This is part of a bigger photo.
Yeah, but still, why would they take a photo of it?
Yeah, I mean, but so you could your first thing that you said saying that obviously stuff can hit it and things like that. On Moon, there is no like wind or anything. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but
that's what they were saying. Like when that flag was in, it was waving. I mean, they were saying that that's fake because why would it wave? There's no wind or anything.
But here's the thing though, right? One, like when the actual thing landed, the rocket engine like blowing out obviously would have blown stone. It could have hit it then, or earlier in earlier in history, like a meteor or like a small meteor could have hit the moon and like sent some stuff flying, and we wouldn't know because it could have happened hundreds of years ago, or it could have happened millions of years ago, and it would still be like that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's pure coincidence.
This photo I've just put in there because you said about how when they land, obviously they use rockets to slow themselves down so you don't just come crash into it, and it would create some sort of crater due to like the moon's surface being like quite like sandy. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
But like, and when you see them walk, you can see that footprints. But look at underneath that spacecraft. You don't see any sort of crater at all. And I mean,
well, it's not that brittle. It's not like the rocket would just
No,
blow
but
all of the land away.
no, I
It's
agree
not
with
that.
you. But there would be some sort of crater underneath. Like, if you've
Like,
ever
if you look, I'm just gonna load it up so I can see it a little bit clearly to make sure I'm not chatting out my ass here.
yeah,
If you look closely, right, you can see all these bumps and small rocks along the moon's surface.
yeah,
And if you look under the engine, there's hardly any. There's
So-
way less on the like underneath the engine as
Mm.
there are just around the moon. All the little bumps and small like pebbles, basically.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, there's a couple, but it's to be expected that at least a couple would like stay there. You know,
Yeah.
when you
yeah, but still,
when-
I mean, personally, I would agree with you there. Like, it's not like the moon surface is purely like sand and it would create like a huge, massive like crater underneath it. But you still got to think like the amount of thrust that I'd have to use. I don't know how much that thing weighed, right? But considering like the size, let's say it weighed like a small helicopter or some shit. You've seen like when helicopters take off, you see how they like the amount of like thrust and power that's out of it. Like if you stand near it, it can like blow you off your feet almost. So it would still, I still think like if the moon surface was what's that, I still feel like there'd be more of a crater there.
I disagree. I don't think that's. I don't think that's. I don't think that's plausible. To be honest, because even if you see a helicopter land in a desert or on a beach or something, even then, like the sand, it's still relatively speaking, like stays there.
Yeah, but
on
there is like an edge to it though, if you know what I mean, from where like the limit
Yeah,
of
but-
like how far it pushes things out.
yeah, but I mean, like I said, you can kind of see that there with the fact that there's less bumps.
Yeah.
It's a little bit smoother.
Dan,
The
what
only
do you
thing I'm
think?
noticing is it doesn't look as if it's kicked up the dust from the moon into the air.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's no wind, but I still think there'd be dust floating around the
Exactly.
air.
That is a pretty good point, to be
Well,
honest.
Again, I think that's a thing with the camera's quality. I
Yeah,
I
but
get that. I don't
let-
know how.
Yeah, but let's say
Mm.
even if the surface was like a centimeter thick with just like pure like rubbery,
Yeah,
like
it
sandy
should,
kind
it
of
should
thing.
float into the air, shouldn't
Yeah,
it?
and with the low gravity,
Good.
you would still see it. Like it would look a bit misty. Now, I mean, the camera.
Yeah.
There is parts where it's like more blue, but I think that's just something to do with how they've recolored it or something like that. Like there is limited mist.
So, in that NVIDIA render that they did, they were talking about how the material of the suit reflects up to about 90% of the light.
Hmm.
So, that area to the left of him, where there's like a greyish blue light, could be caused by that.
Yeah. I mean, and also, right, if this is another thing people were saying, but I'm pretty sure it was only how many people were sent down that craft. It was either one, I think it was just one person or two people, or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
it was two.
There were two.
There was two, right?
Neil Armstrong and Buzz.
And this
Aldrin.
picture here is meant to be of the first guy walking onto the moon, yeah?
Yeah, that's
So
that's the
why
thing. I
is
was
there
gonna-
a camera there? Why is
Yeah.
the camera automatically
I was
there?
going to bring that up. I was going to bring that up. I don't. I don't. I think either, like one of two things. Either along with the lander, they also sent like a camera. That would
Yeah,
land.
I think I think it's
Or-
more or less attached to it. That could be.
Yeah, like that. Or, that's not a photo of the first walking on the moon.
Yeah.
I
They
think it's
got
more
out.
likely the second person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean,
I was thinking, I always thought, oh, maybe Neil Armstrong gets out with a camera, plants it, and is like, "Come on, Buzz, get out here."
yeah, or
Then Buzz
maybe
Aldrin
the
gets
guy placed it, and he's just doing it for the shot. He's not literally saying like let's say the other guy did come out first. They're taking a picture and it's showing like them getting onto the moon. It's not literally saying this guy was the first ever man to touch the moon. It's just saying this was the first people to touch the moon. If that makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, how has no one brought up the idea that this guy was meant to be the first guy to walk on the moon, but there's already a camera there, and it's probably manned by a person.
Well, yeah, that's another.
It's not
big
that
thing.
big of an issue, but it's just like it's a little lie, isn't it? It's just a little lie.
Yeah,
if you're
it's a
saying
little
this
lie.
guy's the
it's
first guy, but
nothing
it's the guy behind the camera.
significant, though.
No, but it is a bit sketchy because if they can lie about something small like that, why can't they just lie about?
Yeah,
loads
again,
of
and
things?
that's why there's traction for the movement is that line of
Yeah.
thinking.
I mean, it probably is one of the biggest conspiracies out there about the moon landing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
still think it would be massively hard to make so many people cover
Yeah.
up a lie
To keep
that.
everyone quiet.
Yeah,
or
but
something.
how many people would question what the government are saying about something like this?
I mean, there are millions of people who believe in conspiracy theories.
Yeah, but
But,
it's just like, why would the government? It's I mean, not necessarily logical, but it's like, why would the government need to lie about this? That's what the first thing people think. Like, you know, it's easier to like fool people than to like like I can't explain, but it's like it's easier to make someone
It's easier
believe
to
they are
fool
fooled.
people than to let
Yeah, exactly.
fooled. Yeah, that's how it goes.
It's like exactly like it's just way easier. Like,
Yeah. I mean, maybe the conspiracy theory started because someone who did work on it said that they worked on it and no one believed them.
maybe.
Maybe that's how it started.
I mean, if let's say it was fake, what would the actual like negative like what would bad would come out of it? Apart from that,
So
the money that he took off everything.
if Donald Trump looked in the records and he saw that it was fake and he went and he said, guys, the moon landing's fake. I think at this point, like as a president, as an administration, wouldn't suffer because it was so long ago.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't, but NASA would get fucked up the ass. They would be. Sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, it's all right.
All right.
For sure.
Yeah, NASA would get absolutely like they probably wouldn't
Yeah.
exist anymore.
I mean, there are
Or if they did, it would
conspiracies
be
that
in a very
NASA
limited
are
state.
just fake.
I'd imagine people would protest them, so they'd probably get like their budgets cut massively.
Yeah.
But also,
Yeah.
people would lose trust in the government.
Yeah, exactly. There would be
very
a
true.
massive sort of, I think libertarian would probably jump up the idea of small government, not, oh, don't take my tax money, it's stealing, blah blah blah, and all that jazz. I think that would probably see a massive leap. A lot of other conspiracy theories that are related to, or even not related, might become more popular because people are like, well, if that was real, what else could be real?
Exactly.
Maybe there are lizard people on the inside of the earth that are secretly controlling us.
Yeah, but that is also like a lot of these conspiracies are related to the government as well. Like most conspiracies are like lizard people is linked to Area 51 because people do believe that Area 51 like it's meant to be about isn't it meant to be like military and just things like that?
It's a military testing
yeah, exactly.
base. It's where they test new stuff for the army.
Exactly. Some people do believe that there are aliens there that are being tested on. It's like when people claim to be like abducted by aliens, things like that.
Yeah, but they probably just had a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of these things could be explained by, oh, you're hallucinating, all that. But then if you really think about it, like, let's say the government could like lie about these things because we all believe in the government. We don't believe that the government would lie to us necessarily, right? But that idea that we are hooked, like we believe whatever the government says, is like the government's almost brainwashed us, if in a way.
Yeah, in a way, it's dangerous.
The problem is wherever the government involves secrecy and what they're doing, like the FBI, the CIA, even here MI5, for example. There's always going to be conspiracies about that. If they're secret, there's obviously something they don't want us to know.
Yeah, and people are going to try and think of something that they could be hiding, and that's how conspiracy theories start.
I mean, personally, I would think it's very far-fetched to say that the government are like lying to us constantly and that we're almost brainwashed by them. Like people like Alex Jones who say like, oh, the government puts stuff in our water to like brainwash us and like telephone towers or whatever, like send microwaves to like destroy our brains.
Those conspiracy theories are a bit crazy, but I think
there
are some conspiracy, like every now and then government does something, covers it up, and I think a few conspiracy theories have merit, like 9/11, JFK. I think those are two very. I believe in those. But
if we imagine for a second that like these people are actually like they're right and we're wrong about the government and they're actually the ones that have escaped from them, like how like that would be like just insane, like to imagine that. Like if that was the case,
it would. I wouldn't
imagine.
know what
reality would be at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't.
So
I would just be completely.
I'm comfortable. Let's say that the government are lying about everything to us. I'd still feel comfortable like being where I am right now than than knowing that the government are lying and like all
Yeah.
this thing. I'm comfortable where I am.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. It's like this. It's like I don't know anything other, so it's like not gonna hurt me if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But obviously there are some like cases where that's a bit too far. But what you don't know can't hurt you in some cases. I mean, I doubt it is in this case, but
I mean, in all honesty, especially for us as non-Americans, as people who don't even live in the US, and even for people that live in the US, you know, who weren't alive when it happened, how in any way at all does it affect us that the moon landing?
Yeah, it doesn't.
How does it affect our day-to-day life? It doesn't.
So
the only people it would affect would be people who were alive at that time and paid taxes during that time.
Exactly. So like even bringing the conspiracy up, like even if you were proven right, it would have little to no consequence in your everyday life. So to most people, they just brush it away because it's pretty pointless at the end of the day. But like with the people that were involved, it's probably quite a big issue.
Yeah, and I think if it were, you know, a conspiracy theory that would affect our entire day-to-day life completely, I think maybe then, you know, give it a listen, you know, try and debunk it, whatever. But for something like this, where it doesn't even affect us, I think I'd rather not know that it was faked.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it doesn't affect me that it is faked. And if I knew it was faked, I'd just be a bit more suspicious of the government than I already am.
It would bring up other conspiracy would basically like be brought up, like
it would just make everyone a lot more scared.
But to be honest, though, majority of conspiracies, like even like the flat Earth, I mean they've been around for a while, but they've only been brought up quite recently, and I think that's due to like social media and things like that. How they've really been like pushed quite recently.
Yeah,
they've definitely been popularized by social media.
Because I'm pretty sure flat Earth has been around for ages, but if you were a flat earther like hundreds of years ago, you were known as basically like an idiot.
But now they're like a pretty big community. I mean, what estimated? So it's probably a little bit lower, but estimated 1/3 of millennials in America think the Earth is flat. Which is massive. A third, that's insane.
I mean, and it's things like the Bible as well. Cause I don't know much about the Bible, but I'm pretty sure in the Bible it says the Earth's flat.
It doesn't strictly say the Earth is flat,
but it hints.
It makes references to people talking about like the world, and in that, obviously, you know, connotations of it being flat. But I think that's more of because of the time period.
And and maybe like there's obviously it's translated, wasn't it? There could be issues in translation.
It was originally written in what, Latin or something?
Hebrew, which is even crazier than Latin. That's the Israel language, and it's fucking insane. It's just squares.
Squares, hieroglyphics.
If you look up Hebrew language is literally just squares and like right angles.
In hieroglyphics, man.
Might as well be.
I mean, about the moon landing, there's always like, well, not really conspiracy, but like, have you seen the picture where it's like the footprint and the space boots don't match, things like that?
No,
I mean, I think that's.
Of course they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just fake. There's some things which are fake, and a lot of stuff like, again, like these things that I'm saying, like, they're not necessarily can be proven to be like factual, and like they are basically seen as like conspiracies again. Like, I mean, they're not real, but I think there's quite strong evidence against the moon landing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I won't, but I think it's faulty evidence. I think the evidence is poor.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is that
low quality.
Let's say if we reversed it, right, and that like you would say for something, oh, you can prove this by blah 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 blah, but then like you could logically say something against it, which is a bit of an issue. If you can think of something to go against it, which could be plausible, obviously, you know, like there's some issues there. If you could say like the pictures of the space and there's no stars, you can say, oh, we can prove this by blah 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 blah. But at the same time, you could just say, yeah, if I got my camera out and took a picture of the night sky, I could see the stars. It's things like that. I personally think that's a bit of like I see a red flag, but if you can easily come up with things like that, it does seem a bit like iffy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I that. I think it's well, I think that it's just one way or the other, isn't
Yeah.
it? You know, you either believe one thing or you believe another thing.
I mean, like I said at the start, I'm on the fence. Well,
Yeah, you're a
I
fence
wouldn't
sitter.
like I wouldn't be surprised if it was fake, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it was real. Just
Yeah.
because of like the effects it could possibly have on it.
Are you leaning to either side, or are you like
I'm
directly?
I'm just on the fence about it. I don't know. I can't make my mind up.
To be honest,
Mm.
I think it was real, but I think it's also very, very plausible that it's fake.
Yeah,
It would have been a
exactly.
hard thing to do, though.
It would have been very hard, but like let's say right now let's say it is fake, yeah. We've just been fooled for the past 70 years. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Yeah.
not us specifically, because
Yeah,
none of us
yeah,
are 70
not us
years old, but
No, I think
Um,
70 is a bit too far. It's more like 40 or 50 or something.
yeah, I mean, it's been 70 years since the Second World War happened during that
Yeah.
time. It would be like 50 or
I think it's
60.
50 exactly.
It'd be 60 in 10 years, so
Yeah.
it'd be 50, yeah,
Yeah.
because they're 6 times table.
Mm. Well, I mean, that about wraps it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there obviously are more, like, you can dive into it a bit more and see more information about it, but these, like, the main, like,
Yeah, we've gone over the
topics about
stuff.
it. I mean, you can make your mind up about it, but I still, I don't know.
Right.
It's just it kind of just like it's so like each way is so like there's such a lot of evidence for it against it. I'm just like I don't know where to sit.
There's so many variables.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. So yeah, it's been great talking to you guys, and this podcast done.
You've been watching the ejaculation podcast.